Hello, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, males and females, sportsmen and sportswomen. Welcome to the Alex Bloodfire live stream this evening. Tonight on Turf Island, we're going to be discussing women's sports and a pernicious gender ideology. Well, the United Kingdom, particularly England, might I add, is leading the way in the fight against trans ideology, and I'm very proud of my country. Being an Englishman, we're certainly fighting the war on gender ideology. The tide is starting to turn. Women, after years of fighting, are finally starting to get their sports back. But there is fierce opposition from deluded trans activists who appear hell-bent on destroying women's sports, campaigning to allow males, however they identify, and including intact males, to be given a platform to cheat and full access to women's changing rooms, women's showers, and females' toilets. And these males go on to use the platform to cheat and expose themselves in the changing rooms, showers, and other spaces reserved for women, reserved for females, should I say? No, I should say women, actually, shouldn't I? Complaints are raised by women regularly, but they're not being listened to. So my question is, why are sporting bodies, allowing males to simply expose themselves in women's spaces, in women's private spaces reserved for them? You know, why are sports bodies giving males a platform to cheat? But first, I've got some news about the controversial Tavistock Gender Clinic in London, which has already been ordered now to shut down after a damning report that said the Tavistock was unsafe for children. Hello, Amy. Just note you there. Thank you. Me, that's really appreciative. Well, we're going to talk about sports tonight, and I'm just mentioning about the Tavistock, the Tavistock where it's been, it's been basically they're going to shut it down because it's unsafe for kids. But also a law firm, Pogost Goodhead, is pursuing a group litigation order against the Gender Identity Development Service at the Tavistock and Portsmouth NHS Foundation Trust, so this means that the Tavistock clinic could be sued by, they reckon about 1,000+ families. These cases are going to range from medical negligence, unnecessary breast amputations, bottom surgeries, unnecessary castrations, medical misdiagnosis. In fact, the list is endless, and so are the families about to sue this controversial clinic, apparently. So my question is, how was this allowed to happen to our vulnerable children in the United Kingdom? Why did the NHS, that's the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, allow this to happen? And will the people responsible be brought to justice or allowed to walk away after mutilating our children? It's a good question, but that's some good news, really, that we have been waiting for. At least finally people are now going to get justice for the crimes that have been committed against them. So that's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. If you have been a victim of the Tavistock and you are looking to sue them as well, but you've not yet got in touch with the solicitors, you can either contact me. I'm happy to pass you on to all the details. I've got contacts, or you can contact the law firm Pogost Goodhead, who are pursuing that group litigation. So please, if you want to sue, contact Pogost Goodhead or me, and I can pass you on to them, basically, if you can't find the details, and sue them. Sue their arse off, because what the Tavistock have been doing is a crime, against everybody. It's a crime what they've been doing, and they're now going to pay for it in court. So that's good. And I'm really sorry for all the victims out there that are suffering because of the Tavistock's negligence. It's something that it's something that these people should be utterly ashamed of. The Tavistock and the people responsible that allowed this to happen should be ashamed. And thank you for all the whistleblowers and all the people that came out to expose this clinic for what it is, a vile clinic. So moving on, I've got a few things to say before we go on to women's sports. So I've got a couple of crowdfunders in the information. Okay, and one of the crowdfunders is to help Jessica. Okay, now I'll just read. I took the top line of what Jessica said in her beginning of the actual crowdfunder. She said, in 2021, I lodged for a single-sex exemption to the Anti Discrimination Commissioner to hold a lesbian event at my mother's and brother's venue in Launceston, Tasmania. In Tasmania, we have nothing specifically for lesbians, and I wanted to cater for my own community, the lesbian community. And it seems that in Tasmania, it is now unlawful for lesbians to have a single-sex exemption to hold events. She's crowdfunding because I think she's taking them to court. But if you have a look at the crowdfunder below, all the details are in there. And you know, this is terrible that lesbians are not allowed to organise in Tasmania anymore. So it's really disgusting. It's really disgraceful what's happening. But it's great that you've got this wonderful woman actually pursuing it. And the second crowdfunder I've got in the information below is to help LGB Alliance defend their charity status. As you know, they are being attacked, and that is the correct words, attacked by ghastly mermaids. The challenge to their charity status by mermaids is going to be heard in and I'll just read you exactly what LGB Alliance have put up there. They've said, we're defending the right of LGB Alliance to retain its status as a charity promoting the rights of lesbians, gay men and bisexuals as defined in the Equality Act 2010. That is on the basis of sex. So if you want to stop ghastly mermaids and their ilk bullying and their ilky bullies, okay, from constantly attacking LGB Alliance, please consider supporting their crowdfunder. But more importantly, share, because the more people that know about this, the better they are, the better they've got a chance of being funded by other people, but the better, you know, and people who provide donations, but also let more people be aware about who LGB Alliance are and what's happening, because this litigation is likely to expose mermaids in ways they haven't really contemplated, and this may very well bring them down. So you know, please, if you can contribute, but please do share this this crowdfunder, because it's quite an important one, this one, especially for LGBT people, but you know, especially for people who support same-sex you know, attraction. And also the LGB Alliance are the ones that speak out against the Tavistock and the amputation of healthy breasts, the castrations of young men, and the way gender confused people have been treated and fast-tracked onto a life of medication, surgery, and then woke up and detransitioned, realizing they've made the biggest mistake of their life. And the adults that were responsible, they're realizing now, should never have been allowed to do that to them. So LGB Alliance do speak out about that. And they do help LGBT people in more ways than what you realize. As you know, that the Tavistock have affected many children, but you know, the medical negligence that's now starting could be huge. And thank you for the LGB Alliance speaking out about it. So please take it from me, support LGB Alliance, not ghastly mermaids or ghastly Stonewall. LGB Alliance is the way forward. I predict that both mermaids and Stonewall will not exist in the future through what they've actually been doing. So that's my prediction, and I think I'm right. I'm normally right. In the future, there won't be a Stonewall, or it will be just a trans organisation, and I'm pretty certain that mermaids probably will fall by the wayside as well. Right, so let's move on to women's sports and a pernicious gender ideology. So gender ideology has played a big role in how women's sports are now being carried out. As we know, men are strong, fast and competitive, and this fact is reproduced in many sports. We can all see that. It's obvious. It's proven time and time again on the playing field. That's exactly the reason why women, adult human females, the only kind, have their own female-only sports, and that's a fact. Women fought hard for their own sports, and the first Women's Olympic Games took place in Paris in 1922. There was strong pushback, though, and women fought hard to have their own fair, dignified, and safe sport. And it was even being pushed back then by, believe it or not, men, which, it's unbelievable that men are trying to attack women's sports. And now, and back then men were also doing the same. So it's kind of like the same thing, really. Misogyny recycled, really, and brought into, the future. So in the 1940s, World War II saw the introduction of the first women's professional league with the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. Standards for them were strict of how they had to dress and act. It was seen as radical, but the women fought on for their sports. So why should the LGBT alphabet soup and trans activists wreck women's sports? Men are not women. They never were and they never will be. It's a big embarrassment for lesbians, gay men and bisexuals to watch women's sports being destroyed by selfish trans activists and the other part of the TQ community, whatever that is, because most people like me don't know. Platforms of the LGB community or the gender confused community. People across the world are questioning what these groups of people are doing. People are fighting back against these groups of people, and things are turning nasty. We can see that. We can see on Twitter that women are getting death threats all the time. I'm going to report about one today, but this is what's happening. So the LGBT community's rights, the LGB community's rights, I beg your pardon, are going backwards, and so are the T actually. And they will continue to do so unless LGB people stand up to trans ideology. If lesbian, gay and bisexuals don't walk away from organisations like Stonewall and stand up against trans ideology, we're set to lose quite a lot. They're set to lose quite a lot of rights. How can anybody trust a community like the LGB when their platform is being used to destroy women's rights, destroy women's sports, transition our children, and also indoctrinate our children in their education, schools, and now nurseries? They're not going to be trusted. Unless the LGB people speak up, this is lesbians, gays, and bisexuals, speak up, you won't be trusted in the future, and you will lose your rights on that platform. Lesbian, gay and bisexual people have worked long and hard to get the rights they've got. We will start going backwards. I'm talking about people now. I'm seeing people, should I say, who were talking about bringing back Section 28. I've never heard of that before. I've never heard of anybody stating that they're going to bring back Section 28. Now it's all over social media. They want Section 28 in schools so they can't teach gender ideology, and these are the things that I'm hearing more and more and more. More offensive things, homophobia, is being put across all social medias. I'm seeing it more and more. I'm on a lot of sites. I'm on Gab, I'm on Getter, I'm on Minds, I'm on Parler. I'm seeing all this, and it's getting worse. The homophobia is getting worse. And if if lesbians, gays, and bisexuals don't stand up for their rights, they don't stand up and say, look, the trans community are not using our platform like that. You will lose that platform. You will lose your rights, because actually, that's what's happening now. People are no longer standing for this. People are standing up. They're not going to let you do this to the children. They're not going to let men walk in women's toilets and expose themselves. And that's why Turf Island is gaining ground. The tide is turning, and I'm proud of my country. This is my country, and I'm proud that we are gaining ground. It's vastly important, that we stop this nonsense. So if lesbians, gays, and bisexuals don't speak up now, you're set to lose your whole platform, and you're set to lose your rights, and you will lose your rights because more and more people are speaking out against what your platform is being used for. Right. So again, if LGB people don't speak up about about a made up gender ideology, because that's what it is, plaguing our society, how can this group of people ever be trusted again? You need to think about that. You really need to think about what's going on in this gender ideology. You need to think that the trans have hijacked the LGB platform, and you need to speak out, because if you don't, you'll lose it. When I undertook human rights work over the last 3 decades, I've been fighting for rights for 30 years. Most people don't know me because I never stood out like Peter Tatchell or, people who work for Stonewall or this, but I did it behind the scenes. And I've been working in human rights for over 3 decades. I dealt with a lot of government officials across Asia, Africa, the world, in fact, but it was Africa that spoke to me, that said the things that really, you know, they spoke out to me, let's just say, and about things that I didn't understand at the time, why they would say those things. And I remember that somebody said to me, why would our country, and I'm not going to mention which country it was, but it was in Africa, why would our country want to legalize homosexuality? Look look at what homosexuals are doing in the West. And I remember that vividly, what they said, but I didn't understand what it meant. I thought, gay people just want rights, they just want to do this. But looking at things now where schools are transing children behind their parents' backs, women's sports are being ruined by mediocre males who wouldn't stand a chance in their actual sex category, their own sex category. And we can all see that. Children are being butchered in gender clinics, across the Western world. Why would countries in Africa and Asia legalize homosexuality? Because this is who's getting the blame for this. It's gay, lesbians, and bisexuals, particularly gay and lesbian people, are getting the blame for this. And they, like me, are watching this mess being played out in the Western world. Why would you want to inflict that on Africa, Asia, or any other country? It's a good question. Now, of course, I do think that homosexuality should be legal anywhere, and nobody should, face the death penalty for being gay. It's not fair. Nobody should go to prison for being gay. It's not fair. But I can see where these people, are seeing the Western world. I can see why they're concerned. And this is what people used to say to me, look at what's happening in the Western world. And I don't want to say, what's played out is, they were right, because I don't believe they were right. But actually, unless we pull this back, unless we stop this, you will have proved them right. You will have proved them that it's just such an embarrassment, how the Western world is transing the Western world, you know? Um, you know, so don't let selfish trans activists and the LGBT alphabet soup people destroy the very fabric of our society. If you're LGB, you need to speak out. Don't let deluded trans activists, ruin women's sports. Don't let deluded trans activists push so that males can go into women's sports and expose themselves in their changing rooms, which is what's happening. To the rest of the world, and even to most people in the Western world, actually, it's wrong, it's disgusting, it's perverated, and this shouldn't have happened. So you need to speak out. And you need to speak out, or you need to change your opinions very quickly, or you'll lose your rights. But you're not doing anything for the countries. You're not doing anything for the people in countries where it's illegal, because all you're doing is enforcing, the issue of where they believe that they're in the right. The governments are in the right, and they're not in the right. But you're making them believe that, because look what you're doing. Look what the trans activists are doing. Look what the LGBT alphabet soup. Because Africa and Asia are watching, and you are responsible for this. Trans activists and the LGBT alphabet soup people are responsible for this completely. Now, don't get me wrong, countries like Iran are butchering their lesbian and gay citizens, but they won't legalize it. They're butchering, they're transing them. They are transing people in Iran. It really makes me sick when I hear trans people say, well, I should move to Iran, or, Iran, they treat, the trans people decent. A lot of them trans people are lesbians and gay people who've been butchered by a regime, or they face the death penalty, so let's get that straight. So I'm calling really on all sporting bodies across the Western world as well, to stop giving males, however they identify, a platform to cheat on, and full unreserved access to women's changing rooms, their showers, their toilets, and other spaces reserved for females, and to disallow males to expose themselves in women's spaces, because this is what they do. This is what they're actually doing, and it's perverated. It's disgusting. It's dangerous. Allowing males to participate in sports like rugby, it's dangerous, and rugby's now found that out. England was first. Yeah, proud of England, because England was first. Okay, then Ireland. What about Wales? What about Scotland? What about other countries? It's time that these sporting bodies stop giving these mediocre males a platform to cheat on and full access to women's spaces. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm noticing on Twitter as well. I mean, Twitter is an unbelievable platform. I do predict that Twitter will go by the wayside. I think trans activists have actually shut Twitter down in the future, and I think that's what they're going to do. But we've got women that have been suspended from Twitter for hateful conduct for simply asking why a man was allowed to compete against young women at the Gaelic Football Championship. It's a simple question. So why are Twitter so against women's rights? They're clearly for trans rights. Well, they're clearly for gender confused people rights, should we say. But women's rights and gay men, the amount of gay men that have been banned off Twitter and women that have been banned off Twitter, why? Why is Twitter suspending women for simply questioning why men are competing against young women at the Gaelic Football Championship? And why are the Gaelic Football Championship organisers, and indeed the Irish people themselves, allowing a man to compete in that championship? Why? What about the safety issues? What about women's dignity? Is this man using the women's changing rooms and showers? Is he exposing himself? Because men who go into women-only spaces reserved for women and expose themselves is a sexual offence. It's a crime. Why is this not the case with him if this is what he's doing? Is he using the women's showers and changing rooms? And is he exposing himself? Why is the Irish police not investigating a man exposing himself in the women's changing rooms? If he's using the women's changing rooms, I'm presuming that he is if he's in the women's team. And I'm making that presumption. And if I'm right, why aren't the Irish police arresting him? It's concerning. Or is it really that the Irish police have decided that men exposing themselves to women is no longer a crime? Are women not important in Ireland anymore? That you think, that the Irish police think, men can expose themselves in women's spaces. All they need to do is just pretend they're a woman. Is this what's happening in Ireland? Is this what the Irish police think of women now? This is a terrible thing that's happening to women. And it's a terrible thing that's happening to women in Ireland. This shouldn't be allowed. Women pay the tax too, and they deserve the right protections. So if this man is on the team, is in the actual sport, if he's using women's spaces, he's exposing himself. And then he needs to arrest him. It's simple as that. Let's not blur the lines and pretend he's a woman. He's not. So what I'd really like to know is how exactly is this helping lesbian, gay and bisexual rights by gay people supporting a man in women's sports? What's it doing for trans rights? Destroying women's sports like this, not speaking out when a man exposes himself in the women's changing rooms. It's the same as Will Thomas, now known as Leah Thomas, who now identifies as a woman. Okay. I mean, the girls actually, the victims, these victims who were forced to change in front of Leah Thomas while he exposed himself, because that's exactly what he's done, have complained. But I'd like to know why this isn't classed as indecent exposure. Why is Leah Thomas, who's exposed himself in the girls' changing rooms, not been arrested? You know, why is a man, you know, when a man exposes himself in the women's changing rooms, he's committed a crime. A sexual offence has taken place. We can't change sexes. You know, Will's a biological male. You know, nothing will ever change that. And he's got a penis, and he's exposing that penis in women's changing rooms. Why is he not being arrested? Why are people supporting his perverted behaviour? Thomas can call and identify himself whatever he wants, but again, is a biological male with a penis. This is indecent exposure, surely. Why is he not being arrested? Why is he not being charged with a crime? And why are people supporting this disgusting man doing this? You know? So who are the people out there that are cheering on biologically born males exposing their genitals in female changing rooms and showers? Perverts, perhaps? Sex offender apologists? You know, LGBT alphabet soup people? Trans activists? Are you cheering this on? Why do you think it's okay for biological born intact males to expose themselves in women's changing rooms? How is that improving your rights? Because it's outraging people like me, and it's outraging probably most people in the world. You know, I must say though, Thomas, however, this person, you know, he's single-handedly picked a lot of people across America, you know, and across the world, because a lot of people are disgusted with Thomas. You know, it's yeah, and another one that's actually piqued the world is the New Zealand competitor, biologically born male Laurel Hubbard. You know, he trans-peaked many people after this transgender woman, which is a biologically born male, okay, who now says they identify as a woman, you know, become this person become the first transgender woman to compete at the Olympics in the female weight category, female lifting weight category. I mean, how silly! I mean, how can that be? And rightfully, he's caused worldwide outrage. Many people are angry at Hubbard because clearly Hubbard shouldn't have been allowed to compete in the female category of female weights, you know, weightlifting. I mean, how silly. You know, of course he was good. You know, I mean, whether he won or not is not the point. He shouldn't have been there because Hubbard is a biologically born male and clearly not a female. So a rundown of other news, which I'm going to come down on. So so there's other news that I normally bring up some other news just to keep people up to date, and certainly for people who are watching this in, let's say, who watch it on other platforms, but also are watching it, you know, after this live stream as finished, but also people who are watching this in 30 years time and 50 years time, looking back and thinking, you know, what was Alex on about? You know, what happened? You know, what actually happened in the world of sort of, you know, gender confused people, and how was they allowed to do what they're doing? So I wanted to run, you know, make sure that people know exactly what's going on. So if anyone's seeing these clipping, even in 200 years time, you know, they're looking back thinking how disgusting and how horrible what happened to people. You know, it's good to you know, bring these things up. So so I'm going to just run down now some things, other things that have happened. So woke schools in the United Kingdom that teach genders, teach children about changing their genders could face Ofsted sanctions, says Suella Braverman. I love that woman, Suella Braverman, the great Attorney General. She said that some institutions were indoctrinating pupils. Well, yeah, we know, Suella, and this is exactly the reason why there's been a spike in children confused about gender. But I think you're becoming aware about that yourself, that, you know, if you teach children, you know, that they don't about gender, you know what I mean, but indoctrinate children and lie to people about gender ideology, there is going to be a spike, you know, in children you know, seeking help about the gender, because it's just going to confuse kids, because kids are still learning. So isn't it sick though? You send your child to school thinking that they're getting an education, and what do the treacherous teachers, the headmasters do? Confuse them about their gender, screwing up our kids. And that is really what's happening. You know, you indoctrinate our children with gender ideology. This is what happens. You're screwing our kids up. So who is responsible for this? And I'm just going to get a drink because my throat's a little bit dry. On Turf Island, it's really hot on Turf Island. I know I've got my bomber jacket on, but you know, somebody said, look, put a bomber jacket on, you know, you're in the stadium, put a bomber jacket on, it will look the part. I am so hot. But anyway, that's another story. So who's responsible for all this, you know, indoctrination in our schools where, you know, who is doing all this? Who's putting these policies in? Which teachers are doing it? Which headmasters are indoctrinating their pupils with gender ideology? If you're a want to be a whistleblower, or you're working at a school, you're a teacher, contact me. I've got many contacts that I can pass you on to. Let's expose these schools. Don't let these schools get away with confusing our children about gender, because they're screwing our kids up. Don't allow your school to screw our kids up. Get in touch with me. We can sort it out. We can expose it, we can put it in the press, you know, we can report it to Ofsted. Okay. But yeah, because they're not doing our children any favors, and I think you know that. But they're certainly not doing the LGB or the T community a favor, because all this is coming to light now, and rightfully it's been condemned across the world. I mean, you stick gender ideology in schools, it's been condemned. You know, it's as simple as that. So yeah, it's not doing anybody any favors by confusing children about gender. And if schools are, you know, starting them on a medical pathway for the benefit of I don't know, you know, drug companies or whatever, you know, this cannot. Children are not guinea pigs. They don't deserve to be used like they are. So again, please, if you're seeing things happening in your schools that you don't like, let me know. You know, contact me, contact you know, the press. You know, speak out to Ofsted, but don't let your school do this to our vulnerable children, please. Okay, so I'm moving on, and I'm going to talk about Stonewall, who is Stonewall are pushing this crap and having they're the ones who are pushing this crap. They're the ones who want biologically born males to invade women's sports and given a platform to cheat. They're the ones who want males using women's showers. I don't know why they're doing that, because they're not doing LGBT people a favor, because more and more people are complaining about it. More and more people are highlighting it. They're not doing LGBT people a favor, but many LGBT people are walking away from Stonewall, and more will. You know, and there are a lot of people who are walking away from there, who are also walking away from Stonewall. So, you know, the UK government legal department have given controversial Stonewall and their gas schemes the boot this week. Actually, they've announced it this week. They're giving them the boot. So that's and over the last few months, quite a few government departments have cancelled their membership in Stonewall because they're realising Stonewall are a pile of shit. They're useless. You know, Stonewall are useless, and the BBC dropped Stonewall as well. I mean, who's next to drop Stonewall? I keep getting that question all the time. Who's next? Let's guess. Let's guess. One thing is for certain: there are many more organisations that are going to be dropping Stonewall in the future. But the British taxpayer shouldn't really be funding this disgraceful and disgusting organisation. And it really is a disgusting organisation. Even some people who are still supporting this organisation have started to walk away after questioning this tweet that emerged a couple of weeks ago that Stonewall put out. You know, that certainly caused a lot of people, you know, I mean, a lot of, as I say, a lot of LGBT people are walking away from Stonewall, but this tweet has caused a few more to walk away, which is pretty good, really. So I'd like to read it to everybody again in case I can pique anyone else. So this is a controversial tweet that Stonewall put out that has caused so much controversy in its making. So it says, and this is exactly what Stonewall put out on there. I mean, I'm blocked from Stonewall. So somebody passed this on to me. They you know, in a photograph, you know, they photographed it and shown it me, and I was really, so I can't reply to it either. But anyway, this is a tweet. Okay, it says research suggests that children as young as 2 recognize their trans identity. Yet many nurseries and schools teach a binary understanding of pre-assigned gender. LGBTQ inclusive and affirming education is crucial for the well-being of all young people. So let's take that into context. Stonewall is saying that 2-year-olds, that's little babies in nappies, should be taught gender ideologies in nurseries. That's exactly what it says. It's exactly what's upset a lot of gay people. It's exactly why people are thinking, you know, ooh, Stonewall, yeah, okay, I don't agree with that. I'm walking on, you know. So I ask the question, why would you fund an organisation like this? So if your organisation or government department's in this and you're responsible for funding it, why? Why would you want to fund an organisation that puts out tweets like that wants to indoctrinate our 2-year-olds? Apparently Stonewall have been in touch with a nursery. I saw that on Twitter. They've actually been in touch with a nursery, trying to provide gender ideology information for young, very, very young people. Sick, isn't it? It's not right. Anyway, so isn't it time that your organisation, like the many, many government departments and many government departments to come, and the BBC, that you dropped controversial Stonewall and their ghastly, pathetic schemes? It's. I think that there's going to be more and more people going to drop Stonewall in the future, okay, and in the near future as well. Particularly after the Alison Bailey case versus the Gordon Court Chambers, that's also caused quite a stir, and it just shows that Stonewall give shit advice, and why would you pay an organisation to give you crap advice? So I think there's going to be a lot of organisations that are going to be dropping Stonewall in the future, which is good. But let me know why you're not dropping, why you're keeping your organisation in Stonewall. Let me know why. Why? Because this falls on your head and your reputation now. The world is changing. The tide is turning. Gender ideology is rightfully being exposed for the damaging nonsense it has always been. Stonewall isn't the organisation to be associated with anymore, as people are finding out. If you're associated with Stonewall, I mean, it's your reputation, it's your harm. And in the future, people will look back on this and they'll see that it was you who were in Stonewall, and you had the authorization, to come out, and you never. And you're funding a silly, stupid, pathetic organization that actually many, many LGB people, these are the people that they claim to represent, are actually walking away from it. They don't agree with what Stonewall have done for years. We've got the, if you want to hear real scandals about Stonewall, I mean, look up the cotton ceiling. Look up the boxer ceiling. You look at what they're doing, and you won't be happy. Well, I mean, there's so much what Stonewall have done now. It's in the press all the time. It's time to wake up. It's time to come out of Stonewall. I keep encouraging people all the time. Please come out of Stonewall, and the police certainly need to come out of Stonewall as well, judging by recent events. So Stonewall isn't the organisation to be associated with anymore. So save women's sports. Stop indoctrinating our children with gender ideology, schools, please, and have the balls to say no to Stonewall. So in more news, leaked files have exposed the American Academy of Pediatrics pushing a harmful drugs first approach on trans teens. The American Academy of Pediatrics are also accused of deliberately blocking moves to change the rules. Have they not seen what's happened in the Tavistock? These people are watching what's happening in the Tavistock, actually. And after the damning report that ordered the Tavistock to be closed, now they've been pursued in court. Can this not happen in America? I think I heard a detransitioner say once that they only have a certain amount of time to sue, and a lot of them run out of that time when they realize that they've made the biggest mistake of their life. Well, why is this? I mean, surely if patients have been harmed in the way that they have, castrated, breasts amputated, surely they should have a fair right to sue the people responsible, because these people shouldn't really have been allowed to do that to them in the first place. Amputating healthy breasts, unnecessary castrations, misdiagnosis, and incorrectly putting children on experimental puberty blockers with their harmful side effects, giving people life-changing and irreversible hormones unnecessarily. Many of us know it's all about the money. These surgeons and doctors and people shouldn't be allowed to make money out of chopping healthy breasts, or amputating healthy breasts, castrating mentally ill people who are in a mess. They shouldn't be allowed to make money out of this. This is disgraceful. That's exactly what they're doing. Children and adults are being robbed of their healthy bodies, for the surgeon's purse. You know, and this is what's happening. Surgeons are making money out of them. The puberty blockers company are making money out of them. You know, and people are being robbed of their lives. They've been robbed of their healthiness, and that, you know, this is terrible. America should stop these people from harming their children and harming their citizens. It's awful. It's really, really bad. You know, it shouldn't be allowed. Okay, so, and lastly, okay, what is Twitter, you know, going to do with increasing death threats against J.K. Rowling and women in general on their platform? And what are the police going to do? I mean, this has now been increasing. I mean, this is, you know, nobody has the right to issue a death threat to anybody. It's a criminal offence. Well, it's supposed to be. You know, I mean, J.K. Rowling tweeted out in support today. Well, she tweeted out to Twitter support to get involved with the death threat that she's received again. I mean, the platform is bad. You know, they shouldn't be allowing people to do this on the platform. These are criminal offences, and this is really, you know, intimidating J.K. Rowling. It's intimidating women. It's intimidating anybody, you know, who they disagree with, really, and it shouldn't be like that. So they have, you know, they allowed yesterday somebody, or the day before, to allow somebody to dox several women who speak out about women's rights and LGB rights and child safeguarding. You know, these creatures engaging in this behaviour need to be arrested and stopped by police. They're committing a criminal offence. I wonder what's happening in my case now. You know, somebody issued a death threat to me, and it wasn't very nice. I mean, I'm still waiting after quite a few weeks. It's probably a couple of months now, and I've received no communication back from the police. I mean, you know, the police should stop being woke, and they should drop Stonewall, who has certainly been behind the fall of what's emerging now. You know, it's, you know, they're the ones who are supporting male rapists in women's prisons, the destructions of women's rights by biological males, and the redefining of homosexuality. You know, it's not, it's really, you know, the police need to drop Stonewall and stop, you know, they need to go back to normal policing, you know. They really do. It's time for the police to drop Stonewall and get on with the proper policing instead of Stonewall policing, instead of Stonewall law. You know, I mean, Stonewall are also sending a biologically born male who is impersonating a lesbian around to our schools to indoctrinate of vulnerable children with gender ideology. No man, however he identifies, will ever be a lesbian. You know, this is what Stonewall are doing. So why are the police, you know, being silly and paying Stonewall to give them advice? You know, this is absolutely outrageous. It's not on at all. Well, so I'm going to be here on Monday. I will be doing a little show on Monday. I don't think it'll be for very long. I don't know how long it'll be. But I'll be live here on YouTube, that is, because I know this is cross-platform. So I'll be live on YouTube from 7 a.m. and I'll be talking a little bit about the Tavistock Clinic, which is being sued. That's been sued by the victims for medical negligence, and could be as many as 1,000 people. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. And Amy says, I would like to be the first bi to throw a brick at Stonewall. I'd like to, yeah, there you go. Yeah, and bring it down, That's yeah, that's exactly what they need to be done. They need really to be brought down. So I'll see everyone on Monday. It's going to be a quickie on a Monday, so I'm not going to get too long. But I've run out of things to say now. So if you know, anyone's got anything to say about women's sports, you know, and gender ideology, let me know in the comments, and then we can talk about it on a later date, or we can talk about it now. And yeah, I mean, you know, I'm going to carry on doing these videos. I know that a lot more people are looking at them, especially on other platforms, but even on Twitter, even on YouTube. So they are getting more seen. So yeah, I mean, that's who's Lily Parr, Amy? Who is Lily Parr? I've never heard of her. But yeah, it's really, you know, what's happening. What has been allowed to happen to women's sports is really wrong. And if we're blurring what a sort of man and woman is, and pretending that they can go into, women's spaces and women's sports, then, you know, we're blurring the law, because the law states that if a man goes into, a women's only space and exposes himself, he's committed a sexual act, and he has. And now we need to get back to that. We need to understand that that is against the law, regardless of how a man identifies. That is against the law. So Amy says that Lily was a great footballer from 1919 onwards, and a lesbian. Yeah, actually, no, I do recognise the name, actually. I do now. Lily Parr, that's right. Yeah, I do. Yes, yes. She was quite a good footballer as well. Yeah. I do recognise now. I recognise the name. So yeah. So we've got all these heroes, of yesteryear. Do you know what I mean? That have really moved our rights on, and they've moved their own rights on, and now we've got all these people destroying everything. I mean, the Joan of Arc is the latest, where they're trying to make out that what Joan of Arc is, what, trans now, whatever. I mean, this is, she wasn't a woman. I mean, come on. It's getting absolutely ridiculous. So I think what I say, and I would say that all LGB people need to speak up, because in the future, okay, if you have allowed your platform, okay, to be used by gender confused people, mainly trans people, or AGPs, the autogynophiles, to destroy it, they will destroy your platform. Men should not be in women's sports under any circumstances. Okay, it's not fair. Women have got rights too. Just like trans people have got rights, if you want, just like LGB people have got rights, women also have rights. They fought very, very hard for their sports, okay, and they shouldn't have it ruined by a group of LGBT alphabet soup and trans activists who are just trying to destroy it, because people are seeing it. You're angering a lot of people, to these trans activists that think that they can really allow a man in women's sports because they pretending to be a woman. It's not the case. You're not going to win, and Turf Island are winning. Turf Island are leading the way in defeating gender ideology, and we will continue. People like me are not going to stop. We are not going to allow perverts in women's toilets, women's spaces, women's showers, exposing themselves, because I won't rest until the police get back to policing, stop using Stonewall law, okay, stop using Stonewall justice, okay, and arrest men who expose themselves in them spaces. And that's it. And I'm not going to give up, and a lot of us are not going to give up. The difference between trans activists and us is we're gaining ground, and we're gaining people. More and more people are speaking out. More and more organizations and government departments are dropping Stonewall. Okay. And the point is, okay, that if LGB people don't speak up, they don't say no to many women's sports, they don't say no to many women's spaces, and they don't say no to perverts exposing themselves in women's spaces, you will lose all your rights. Now, Amy says that Twitter hates women is trending. Yeah, I mean, I saw that with J.K. Rowling today, and I'm really, really appalled that they're allowing these people to give death threats, to dox people, and they're leaving this up for all day. Twitter are just leaving it up all day, but yet you complain about it, you know what I mean, and you start putting tweets out, and it's the women who are getting banned. The women are getting banned for questioning why a man is on a football field. And I think Twitter really do hate women. Twitter, they do, and I don't think they're like gay men either if they don't support the trans ideology agenda. But it's, I cannot understand the platform Twitter, why it's just succumbed to gender ideology. It's ridiculous. It's silly. It will be the death of their platform. Nobody's going to sit back and allow a platform to bully women like this. These are women that are speaking out, aren't they? They're women that are speaking. They're women that are saying, we want our rights back. You know, these males who are pretending to be women are stealing our rights, you know, and these are women that are supporting child safeguarding, and then they've been banned off Twitter. You know, yeah. So yeah, I don't know why Twitter hates women so much, and I don't know why Twitter have now started banning gay men. They've started banning lesbians. A lot of gay men, lesbians, you know, and bisexuals that are now on other platforms like Getter, because they've just been banned permanently from Twitter for reasons of just, you know, questioning, you know, why. You know, why men are playing in women's sports, why males are in women's sports. It's wrong. It's not fair. Yeah. So yeah, please do join me on Monday, okay, from 7 o'clock. Again, we're going to be talking about the Tavistock Clinic, which has been sued by potentially there could be over 1,000 families of the victims that are taking medical negligence cases against the Tavistock. I think we've all as gender critical people like me have been waiting for this. We've been waiting, you know, I mean, the Tavistock couldn't carry on amputating innocent people's breasts, you know what I mean, and you know, castrating people, you know, for the sake of what? I mean, you know, for people to wake up and realize they've made the biggest mistake of their life, for misdiagnosing people. They couldn't carry on like that, but they did carry on for years, despite the fact that they were warned by whistleblowers. They were warned by their own doctors, their own specialists. So yeah, I mean, join me on Monday, 7 p.m. I have run out of things to say. I've had a really good evening actually on here. It's been really good. I'm quite sweaty in my bomber jacket, but I'm going to call it a night tonight. And I will see everybody on Monday. So Amy, thank you for joining me, and thank you for everyone else who's been in and out joining me. And if you're watching this on other platforms, I really do appreciate you watching it. Please give it a like and give me a follow, and let's get this channel off the ground finally. And you know, we can get this stream going every night and chatting about everything. It'd be really good, and I'd be really excited to do that. So yep, thank you, Amy. You know, you have a good one too. I don't know what you're going to eat tonight. I don't know what I'm going to eat. I don't know what I'm having tonight actually, but you know, I'm sure that I'll find something. I had some Marmite on toast today, and I've had some beans on toast along with my couple of shakes, my Slim Fast shakes. But I only have 2 Slim Fast shakes a day, and I've already had them. So I've got a meal later. I know it's 8 o'clock, but yeah, thank you. So thanks a lot, Amy. So I hopefully will see everybody on Monday. So thank you for joining me, and goodbye, everybody.